Good stuff.
Great day. Great day.
I love that. I love that it's a great day, Keller Williams. Huh. All righty. So, a couple of quick things for you this afternoon. We'll get right into questions. But before we do anything, I know there was a bunch of stuff today. I think there was Hal Elrod, the author of The Miracle Morning, was live. I know we had Gary Keller. For those of us in MAPS coaching, we had Gary call today for an hour with Gary, and Gene Rivers. Then we had Gene Rivers that Michael interviewed. And so I'm just wondering who has some awesome ahas from either Hal or Gary or Gene, just in case other people missed it, or you want to just push it out and share. Because 3 powerhouse people all in one day, it's like a lot to take in. What were some awesome ahas you had from the sessions you attended?
I'll share. Gary Keller was just unbelievable, as he always is. I was kind of busy with a lot going on, and I thought I was just lay him in the background and listen to what he had to say. It was riveting. Debbie, I see you shaking your head. You're agreeing. I mean, he had some great stuff to share. I mean, really, we've talked about this, but hearing it from Gary Keller, it's just a little different. How, your business plan for 2020 is gone. Throw it and, roll into a ball and throw it in the garbage because it's over. And that we all need to develop a new GPS, revise for 60 to 90 days out and beyond. And I thought that was really cool. And the way he described it was really, really amazing. And that, 2020 is a real pivot point in history that, even he said, he goes, I'm sure he was just saying this to make us all feel better, but he's like, I may not make any money in 2020, says Gary Keller, knowing how this all may go down with all his investments and everything he has going on. But the point he was trying to make was also, we all need to be going to work every day. We're all home mostly, but we all need to go to work. You need to get dressed. You need to pull your act together. You need to get on your phone. You need to be on your computer. You go to work as much normalcy as possible to get through this. And he really emphasized that. And he stood up and he showed his pants and he's all dressed and he's going to work every day in his office. So I think that was really a major point. And everything he said was great. So just a couple points.
What else?
So I thought Gene Rivers was fabulous because he's talking about the changes that are happening in real estate and how I loved the way he did this. Real estate has now, the way we practice real estate has now gone this way, and it's never going to go all the way back this way. It might come back to the middle-ish sort of, and he was talking specifically about video. If you're not becoming a video maven, you're missing the boat, because everything is going to be virtual and video. I thought he did a beautiful job of explaining that.
Well, and the simple the answer that I was really interested to hear, or the statement that Gene made, it was interesting because Gary and Gene said similar things in different ways, and the idea of one of the things that Gary pushed out to follow Steve, and then I'll follow Debbie. But what Gary pushed out was, you need not feel guilty about going to work. Feel guilty if you're out trolling for business and being insensitive to people, but don't feel guilty about going to work, right? You need to take care of you, and you need to take care of your family, and we need to take care of the people who need to buy and sell real estate. Moving from Gary to Gene made the point over and over again that, we've had similar things to this before, never to this extent, but we've had similar things to this before. And people needed to buy and sell real estate through it, right? Because that part of some people's lives doesn't stop. And so I would caution you to not make decisions about how you are viewing what it is you do. I've said this at least once a week for the past 3 weeks. What we do is really important. if it weren't important, we'd be shut down. If it weren't important, the governor would have said, yeah, you know what, those real estate people, we can all live without what they do. So let's take a 2-month breather on all of that. What we do is important to people, and what we do is important to the economy. And I think we have to continue to have a mindset of understanding that what we do makes a difference. And the fact that we're out there doing it is not offensive to people. If you are offensive, well, then that might be offensive to people. But just the simple fact that you're calling people to ask how they are, and it was just reiterated today by both Gary and Gene. And frankly, Gene made some points where he's pushing people. He's pushing people when people say, he said, I called somebody who told me in November they were ready for April 1st. So on April 1st, I called them. And he said, well, but we're a little scared now. I said, great, what are you scared of? Let's get specific. Are you scared of the market, or are you scared of disease? And the guy said, well, a little bit of both. He said, okay, so here's what we know about the market, and here's how we can adjust your property to fit into today's market. And let me ask you a quick question. Do you still go to the supermarket? And the guy said, yeah. He said, okay, well, we have protocols in place that make it safer for pre-qualified buyers to come through your home. It's safer than you going to the supermarket. Should we set up an appointment to talk more virtually? So again, I think we have to all play in the lane that we're comfortable in. And yet I encourage you to not prejudge what people are thinking, because every single person that has given me feedback, every single person, whether they're you guys or from the region or nationally, every single person that I've received feedback from has given me the exact same feedback, that when you call the people that you know and like and trust, they are happy to hear from you. And it could also, as a secondary bonus, uncover some business. But don't miss the boat of being human because you think you're protecting someone from something that's going on. You're not. You're sending a different message than you think you're sending by sitting out.
So Rick?
Yeah.
So it's Kimberly, and so I have a testimony. I made my care calls this morning, and I called a past client, and we purchased his house about a year and a half ago, and I was just calling to check in, and I said, hey, how's it going? He's like, I'm really happy you called. And I said, really? Okay, what's going on? He says, my family and I, so it's his wife and his parents are living in the house. They all are coming out of COVID-19, the whole household. And so he's like, the four of us, fortunately, his parents are physicians, so they were able to manage it a little bit better. But he's like, we're from India. No one called on to check on us. And you're the first person who we talked to who wasn't a doctor in the past 14 days. And he's like, when I hung up, he says, and Kimberly, I haven't heard from anyone else. And I just want to thank you for calling and checking on us and offering, to drop off toilet paper. He's like, if there's anything, if there's anything I can do for you, just let me know. But I really just appreciate you making a call because you let us know that there's someone outside of our four walls. And it just, it took me back for a little while because I was like, I hadn't talked to anyone who, I've seen on Facebook people who are coming down with it. I've never actually spoken with someone who has gone through the fevers, the shakes, and all this other stuff, and now they're coming back. And he was just, he perked up when he heard my voice. And it's kind of like, what like Donna probably goes through when she comes home and her dogs are all like, yay, mommy's home. But for me, it's like, someone was on the other side and just like, I could tell he was smiling, and his wife was like, "Is that Kimberly? How you doing?" And it was just an awesome feeling. So, I was a little worried about making those calls, but now that just, made the next 12 just go as easy. So I do encourage people to, and the script is easy. How's it going?
Yeah, that's about it, right?
You stop talking, right? And because he just needed someone to talk to that was outside of his house. So
Love it. Love it. Great job. Great job. And it's a great testimonial for exactly what we're talking about, right? Don't choose to sit it out. Any other ahas from either Gary earlier or who else was it? Jean.
Rick.
Yeah.
Hey, it's Jacqueline.
Hey.
I wasn't on the call, but I did hear from Kimberly. I just spoke to her, and she was telling me that he was saying, if you have clients that are thinking maybe to wait, there's a recession coming. If they can do it now, to sell, do it now. We still have buyers out there. We don't know what's coming down. So, I mean, and I have people like that too. It's a hard conversation because, who wants to go through that now? But do you want to go through, worse later? So that's going to be my message. It's going to be, I don't know what's happening in a couple of months or 3 months or, whenever. But right now I can tell you this is what it is. So yeah. I thought that's a great message.
Yeah, that was Jean, I think, as well. And
was it? Okay.
It is a great message. And again, if any of you have sellers who are hesitant to come on the market, push them to that seller call tomorrow night too at 7:00, because we'll address that as well. That way you have some backup with the message that you're sending and the information you're communicating. I'm happy to provide that foundation for you if you're struggling getting people onto the market now. The code for tomorrow at 7:00 is this one. It's the 468-511-5571. It's the main channel. Yeah.
Rick,
Any other ahas?
I just have one quick thing. I did a price reduction today, and when I was speaking with my clients, I told them, I said, you want to take advantage right now of the low inventory, because if you wait a month or two to do a reduction, then you're going to be the stale one. Everyone else is going on the market, and that was the best script one of my best scripts ever. She called me back and they did a giant reduction. So I think that's also, if anyone is talking to their clients about, should I wait to reduce now because the inventory is so small, so maybe that will push a buyer to go take a look.
Yeah, no, that's so true, right? And it's a massively valuable point to it's all about competition, right? And so when there's lighter competition, you stand out more. If you're still not selling, that's, I think, the other piece of this is people are wondering whether, and I'll have specific stats on the call tomorrow night, and then I'll deliver them to you guys on Thursday morning. But the stats will show that showings, we know, are down by 50 to 70%. I mean, we can't track that per se, and yet we know just across the board that showings are way down. Properties going under agreement are not down by nearly that percentage. And so to Jean's point of earlier, right, what that says is that people are willing and able to do business in a different way because we're seeing it. The physical showings are way down, and yet under contracts are only down a small percentage of the showings. And so what does that tell you? It tells you that people are more than happy to view these things virtually, figure it out, and then go buy a house, right? And so we do still see that happening. I know both MCAs are receiving green sheets on a daily basis. So you guys are still out there doing the work that the public has asked you to do on their behalf. So let's make sure that we get that message to all of our sellers. Anything else from Jean or Gary before
I too was just making a care call today, and I found out one of my clients, her dad is on a respirator at the hospital. So I too, was just blown away by that, someone so close. and he's at the Stanford Hospital. So, you know, I offered to do anything for her that she needs or anything, but she has 2 small kids too, and it's really just reaching out to people. It's so important right now, just to show them, you know, see whatever we can do to help. And I saw that email with the help for the hospital. I don't know how we could pitch in or figure out how we could try to do something. I think Michelle had that something listed there. So if we could all join together and see how best we can do something, that would be awesome.
So I know your ALCs are working on some charitable projects for us to dive into in the next over the next couple of weeks. So do watch for information on that. And to Debbie's point, you know, when you call somebody and find out that someone they know is ill, right? Again, that's also not a, oh my goodness, I'm so sorry I called opportunity. It's an opportunity to lean even further in to say, wow, I am so glad I called. How can I help you?
Oh, yeah.
Right? If they have 2 small kids at home, call DoorDash and send McDonald's for dinner tonight, right? So that somebody doesn't have to cook one evening, or, you know, simple little gestures like that I think make a really, really big difference. Great job, guys. All right, so one last thing before we're done for tonight. I wanted to, I've been getting some additional updates and information on some of the CARES relief package information, and I want to push to you. So just by a quick show of hands, anybody received their stimulus check yet? Those who are eligible, anybody receive it yet? Okay, so still no. So do watch for that. And there is supposed to be a new website that the IRS is setting up. I don't know if it's available yet. It's called like Track My Payment or Get My Payment or Where the Hell's My Payment or something like that. And so I'll send out a little information in an update tonight or tomorrow morning on that. But here's a quick website that you can keep checking. It's very, at the very least, it has data for you to. Hey, there's Randy. Randy, how you feeling? That's awesome. I just noticed you up there in the corner. You're like in the what was his name? Who was the guy who was on Hollywood Squares for a million years in the upper right hand corner?
I'm doing okay. I'm hanging in there.
That's excellent. That's excellent. I'm glad to hear that. For those of you who don't know, Randy just had surgery. She just got home this weekend from surgery on her back, right?
Yeah, I had a disc replaced in neck.
Well, we're thrilled to see you, and you look awesome.
I was the only hospital.
So you can go to this website, irs.gov, so irs.gov/EIP, economic payout, sorry, economic, I forget what the I stands for. EIP is the tail. So irs.gov/EIP. That has a bunch of FAQs for you to go through if you're curious about your payment or where it might be. And I think eventually when that new website comes out that you can actually track it and where you stand, I think the information will be posted on that site. So check that out. The other thing to mention to you is there's been some new guidance for those of you who applied for the EIDL loan, either the loan or the grant. The grant portion of that was the economic injury disaster loan, and then there was that $10,000 grant. So that grant has further clarification about how that's going to be paid, and they're now looking at that to make sure that there's enough money for everyone who has applied for that. That will now be limited to $1,000 per employee. So if you applied for that to cover some payroll, now I'm not talking about the PPP, I'm talking about the EIDL, which came with that $10,000 grant. It's now limited to $1,000 per employee. If you were the only employee that you listed, or you were the only independent contractor, that if you get approved for that, that is likely now to be a $1,000 grant, not a $10,000 grant. So those of you who are expecting 10 grand to arrive from that, and you don't have 10 employees that you listed as your business legitimately, you will not be receiving the $10,000 because they've now changed that to make that a little bit more limited. Those loans, the SBA loans, so remember, SBA loans you do not go through a bank for. You can just apply online, go to sba.gov, and so there's more of you that are eligible for a loan from the SBA if in fact you need that to run your business. Those loans, my understanding is that they convert after 6 months, after the period that they, I don't know if it's a state of emergency period or what kind of period they're looking at, but at the end of whatever this period actually is, they convert, 6 months after that, they convert to a 2-year note at 1% interest. So it's almost like free money. If you don't need a loan, don't apply for it. And yet, if you don't quite know how you're going to get through the next 6 or 8 months, other than buckling down and selling a bunch of houses, and you're looking for that, you don't have to go through a bank for that. Go to sba.gov and apply for a loan through the EIDL, the Economic Injury Disaster loan. And the last piece of news for you on the PPP is this. For many of you, what we've been talking about is that the PPP doesn't really, you're not really qualified for that unless you have an actual employee. And I heard some different information this morning that seems to indicate that no independent contractor that I or anyone I know has actually been funded yet by the PPP. I do know a couple of people who applied for PPP loans who have been funded with actual payroll costs. However, independent contractors are supposedly included in that opportunity. And so I'm going to whistle a slightly different tune for you today. And I'm going to encourage you that as independent contractors, you go ahead and talk to the bank that you have your business accounts at and find out what their application process is for the PPP. Now, it is true that if you bank at one of the big banks, if you're a Wells or a BOA person, they haven't been taking applications for almost a week already. And so they kind of shut that down. But call them, find out anyway, and ask them what your other opportunities are. I think if you go to other SBA banks, you're just kind of second in line. Most banks that are SBA affiliated are processing loans for their customers first, and then everybody else second. But I do think that you make the choice. But I do believe that as independent contractors, you should at least fill out an application utilizing your self-employment income as the payroll that you're looking to cover, right? Depending on your bank, you'll have to provide a bunch of different documents. Most of you won't have most of the documents they're looking for because it's all payroll related. However, you do have a tax return that shows that you have X amount of self-employment income. Some banks are actually accepting your 1099. So you'll have to speak directly to those lenders and find out a little bit more based on the lender you choose to move forward with. But I am recommending that if you feel you need to cover your own payroll as an independent contractor, you are eligible for up to 2.5 times your average monthly payroll, right? So if you made $120,000 last year as an independent contractor, your average monthly payroll is $10,000. 2.5 times that is $25,000. We don't yet know exactly how they're going to view the forgiveness portion for independent contractors, right? For those of you who have actual employees, and Linda's right, it is, I shouldn't have used $120,000. I did it because the math was easy, right? I should have used $60,000 because you can only claim up to $100,000, right? That is the cap for the PPP. And so the forgiveness of that portion, for those of you who have employees, seems to be clear. If you use it for at least 75% of covering payroll, and then 25% for covering other approved expenses like rent or mortgage payments or payroll costs, that most, if not all of that loan will be forgiven and covered by the federal government. Again, I don't encourage anyone to believe any of that until we actually see it for real in writing. I would push forward knowing that you're going to have to repay that loan. And then if all of a sudden 6 months from now somebody says, hey, look, it's forgiven, then be happy. Those of you who do have that forgiveness piece attached to it with employees, know that it's not automatic. You have to ask for it, and you have to track, and you have to meet certain eligibility requirements. And so as we find out more about that, those requirements and how specific they're going to be and what documentation you need, I will make that available to you. On April the 27th, so next week, the end of next week, we do expect new guidance to be provided for the PPP, specifically for independent contractors and the forgivability of that loan or not. So in the meantime, if you haven't already applied for the PPP, you may as well just give it a shot. The worst that can happen is that the bank that you apply to comes back to you and says, we're either not doing this or you filled it out wrong. Here's what you're really eligible for. And oh, by the way, this might not be forgiven. And take the loan, stick it in a bank account, don't spend it. And if it's not going to be forgiven, when we find out some additional information later, you can just always give it back. But I encourage you to at least apply so you know what the story is. I would hate for anyone to miss something that was available to them because of the complete lack of clarity from anyone and everyone on exactly how to move this forward. Understand that this changes almost every day. And so what I've been doing is kind of hoarding some information for the last couple of days and then delivering what I have to you in one fell swoop. I think that's a stimulus, EIDL, PPP. Oh, and the last thing is unemployment. The federal unemployment process has still not been made available in the state of Connecticut. I'm not sure it's been made available almost really any place to go and do that separately. So if you're waiting on filing unemployment claims until the federal one comes out to cover you as an independent contractor, I also might take a different approach on that as of today, and I might just go to the Connecticut Department of Labor if that's something that you're interested in doing, and apply through CTDOL. You can go back into the Zoom library, and we walked you through exactly how you go ahead and apply for that. And then once the federal piece pops out, someone will call you and say, hey, you applied here, you're not necessarily eligible for X, but you are eligible for Y, and we're going to process you this way. I think it makes sense to get in line at this point, knowing that there is no specific date yet for the federal piece to come out and have its own portal and its own website. We certainly thought by now that would be available to you, and it's not. So that's my update on all things CARES Act and relief. Again, what I really believe, if you want to know where I sit on all this, the real truth is the best form of protection and security that you can wrap yourself in right now is doubling down on selling real estate. Do what you do and do it at a high level. Sell more houses. That is the best way that I know how to continue to help yourselves make money. I think if you're sitting back waiting for the relief checks to come, I think you're going to be waiting for a while, and B, that doesn't save you forever, and it's not a whole lot of money. So let's double down on doing what we know how to do best and push that business forward. Any other questions before we finish for today? On anything specifically covered or anything else that you've been struggling with or having success with?
Rick, I have a quick question. Just it's Fiona here. I've been onto the Smart MLS, and they keep giving me these compliance notices. I'm trying my best to mark it for my but they're not allowing me to put any links in. So I don't know how I can direct people to any of my up and coming open houses, the virtual ones. So I don't know if anybody has any insight as to what they've been doing. I'm specifically talking about YouTube. I don't know if there's anybody out there that has any experience.
Are they branded? Are they branded? Are you pushing them someplace that's branded with your name or KW or your phone number or anything like that?
So what it is I need to understand how to get a link to be able to promote an unbranded, because the only way I know how to brand is pushing people to my YouTube channel. And I'm struggling with finding a way, and I've been on probably for about 2 hours today to the Smart MLS with 3 different people, trying to determine how I can get some sort of link that will help give some exposure to a virtual public open house.
Fiona, you can do it from the MLS. You can create a virtual tour. It gives you a link that you could put all over social media. After the call, I'd be happy to show you.
Awesome. Yeah, I would love that. Thank you so much.
You're so welcome.
Yeah, because I think the MLS is allowing, they've loosened up some of their whatevers for what we can post, and I think if you put it in the virtual tour section, that's where the link goes that doesn't create a problem. Jen, do you have more on that?
Yeah, I actually taught a class. You need to have an additional unbranded YouTube channel. So your YouTube account is like the cable box. And within the cable box, you have 100 different channels. You can have a channel that has no name, and you can put your unbranded videos there, and you will not get flagged from the MLS. And I believe that video has probably already been posted on the KW Ridgefield Facebook, YouTube channel, I would guess. Adonis,
awesome.
Am I correct about that? It's the class I taught last week. It was called Video 3, I believe.
Yeah, it should be on there, yeah.
Yeah, so
watch that, it'll show you how to do it. It's very simple.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
Awesome. Awesome. Thanks, guys. That's good information. Anything else from anybody before we finish?
I have a question for the mortgage folks on the call. For the mortgage forbearance and deferment, is that just a Fannie Freddie product that would be able to do something like that? If you have a private investor that owns your loan, is there nothing to do with that?
Well, if you have a private investor, you're going to have to make a phone call. And during the phone call, you're going to have to make a conversation about forbearance, and you're going to have to feel them out. All Fannie and Freddie did was make just made a guideline, and they're reacting to what the administration did when they basically floated the idea that the Fed would give millions of dollars to the lenders under this forbearance program. But before you have a private lender, or if you have a local bank, not necessarily Fannie or Freddie, absolutely must have a conversation about it, because there's a huge difference between forbearance and deferring.
Yeah.
If you have the choice, please take a look at the deferring.
Oh.
The forbearance, it has really not gelled as to what it's going to do to you long term. Short term, it's great. You avoid a payment.
Yeah.
So what will it do to you long term? And that's where you got to be really careful.
Yeah, and so I because we spent so much time on forbearance the other day, I don't want to recycle that information per se. So Jacqueline, do go into the library where we're posting things, and it was 4:30, I think, either last Thursday or Friday, and we spent probably a half hour on the whole conversation about forbearance.
Okay.
It is. I will echo Paul's concern. If you can at all stay away from forbearing your loan, stay away from it. It's not the solution that most people think it is. Most banks are not deferring, because that's a whole different idea. A private lender might be willing to defer and tack it on the tail end, have that conversation. Anything else before we finish? All right, guys, have an awesome evening. Have a lovely dinner. Have fun tonight watching whatever you're going to be watching. Take a nice walk. It's a beautiful evening. Get some exercise, and we'll see you back here at 9 o'clock tomorrow morning, bright and early. Woohoo!
Woo!
Thanks.
Have fun. See ya.
Bye.
Thank you.
All right, I have the. Okay, no problem. All right.